Hi everybody, so back sort of the last couple of axes I've got left to do. This one I'm going to try probably do a wee bit of a more longer form video with. So this one I'm going to do it really start to finish, showing sort of every bit. I did make a wee start on it. All the axes came from one place, they all came through Papa's garage. He used to use them day to day for work, but he's been long gone, nearly about 30 years now, so trying to bring them all back to life, which is why they're all quite as rusty as they are. But with this one I decided to take it kind of back to him, and I big carved a H into it for Hugh. We honour him. So with these ones, this one, although I really like the handle, it's got a really nice age look to it, although it might just look kind of dirty. It is nice to look at. The camera doesn't really do it justice. Like all the sort of dark and then the scratches, obviously from when it's being used, but with it being sort of neglected for so long, and I think stuff's probably fallen on it over the years, it's got a few sort of rougher points. You maybe see that light spot there, it's got quite a big notch in it and it's quite rough. So if I try and sand that back to smooth so it doesn't catch in the hand like it does just now, it'll just obviously look out of place. So what I'll probably do is I've been doing with the rest of them and using my ebonize and stuff to kind of get it there. Because I did let it sort of oxidise, it does kind of put it back to a sort of antique look, kind of leaving the sort of dark brown rather than straight to black. The head on this one is, you can see the sort of shine come through on it. It's the exact same as the first one I did, just a slightly shorter handle to it, as I say. So it'll probably go straight back to silver. It'll probably know that sort of patina, the black sort of come through from the rust being converted, but I'm going to get it straight back to sharp, and if it goes shiny, it goes shiny. Can't do anything about it. It does have a fair bit of knocks and dings to the blade of this one, so you can see sort of on the edge. That'll focus in. There we go. You can see sort of waves and see quite a lot. That's quite a bad roll there. So although I don't like doing it, I'll probably have to take this one to the bench grinder as opposed to just using my diamond plates to sharpen it. So what I'm going to do is film the full thing start to finish. So with this one, I'm going to start off with the grinder to get it back to the sort of nice kind of shine I want. No point in putting on the bench grinder just now to sort of get that edge back in, and I might just rip it and dull it again with the wire wheel. So do that, give it a nice proper clean up on the handle, re-ebonize it, show you sanding it. I'm just going to leave it all in, no editing. Then try, this one's not as sharp, so as silly as I look in every video, as I can't resist rubbing it down on the sharp edge. It's pretty safe to do so at the minute. So I'm going to get started with this one. Stay tuned for the rest. That's the sort of grind done, at least on the actual hand grinder. Didn't go back as shiny, so I think when we grind the edge back in, it's going to leave that nice sort of contrast for the sort of darkened back steel, and then you'll have that sort of blade. But you can really see now that once I've cleaned that up, just how nicked the blade is. You can see that real wobble to it. So if I can whack that back to being sort of razor sharp, although an axe doesn't need to be, still cool to say it is. So you can see it's really dull here. Like there's nothing, there's no cutting really edge left. So what I'll do is, I think you always end up nicking it somehow using the grinder. So before I move on to sort of sorting the handle out, I think what I'll do is we'll use the big bench grinder and we'll get this back to an actual nice flat edge, and then we'll get round to doing the file sharpening and diamond plate sharpening after that. So yeah, we move on. Bench grinder's done, but it does leave, obviously it's not a totally flat blade, it does, or wheel, it does obviously leave these sort of ripples in it. So what I'll always tend to do is I'll come back, flat bit of sandpaper on the bench, and I'll sort of slowly sand that flat edge to it, and then I'll put a final actual file on it with the diamond plates and the strop. But yeah, this bit takes forever, so enjoy. So I do generally use the sandpaper every time, but then I thought, looked up and went, why am I doing this? This is going to take all night. Got a perfectly good belt sander sitting there, so yeah. Did the trip. Took all these sort of ridges out from using the bench grinder, so it's now back to being totally smooth. I'll get it properly sharpened up once we've finished doing the handle, so let's move on to that next. This bit I will do by hand. So with the handle I've got just glass on paper, sandpaper, 120, not going to go any higher than that, I'll just clog it wood up. So just going to give this a quick rub down, smooth out all those sort of imperfections that I said earlier catch, but yeah, we look over before I do that. So you can see here obviously there's all these sort of white marks. They're all quite rough to the touch and your fingers do catch in them, especially like that one that's a wee notch on the back. And then there's a couple of similar ones back here on the tail end, and just a couple of rough spots to it. These ones back here are more sort of knots in the actual wood itself, so those ones will probably just have to leave. But yeah, let's get stuck in and get it cleaned up. Maybe drop down a grit to 180, just the 80, and see if I can get us a quick clean up, because it is, the amount of sort of grime in it is really clogging the sandpaper up quite quick, and you see that just totally done in, so it's not really taking the roughness out anyway. So I'll go quickly get this a wee harder buff down, and then we'll get stuck into it. I'll just back to some oxide paper for the 80 grit. Yeah, that's done. Just going to go back to doing the glass paper. Right, so moving on to the last stop now that the sharpening's done. It's really just putting this ebonising sludge on. As I said, because I've left the stuff in to sort of oxidise, it leaves it more sort of antique than ebonised, but you'll see what I mean once it dries. What I tend to do now, before I give it its linseed oil, I'll usually give it one quick rub down, because the steel wool and vinegar and the quick run over the torch can make it sometimes just a wee bit rough, so just a wee quick run down with the 120 just to take any top scratchiness kind of off. Shouldn't really do much to the finish, to be honest. Just went really light just to rub off anything on the surface. And so turn it over and do a quick on the other side. Right, it's time for the fun bit. Got his real manky oilcloth that's been used for nothing other than linseed oil. I don't know if that's what gives it its charm, but it might be. Be quite generous with this generally, especially since the vinegar tends to dry it out. See that immediate change. Now that we're sort of done, can you see the real change, even just in the handle? The H stands out a bit better now as well, but I know just some difference. I always talk about how sharp these things are, but never really tend to show it. One way to test how sharp it is you always have a wee run down. Quite a hairy arm, but see, it takes a fair old shave to see all that sort of come off. Absolutely razor sharp.